Good luck, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, this should be turned on. Yes? Okay. Awesome, amazing. Thank you guys for being here. This is really, really fun. And I was watching you watch the speaker before we started, and you're all super engaged. I told everyone that was really cool. We're going to start, well, we're going to be talking about community today, the secrets of community. Hopefully, a lot of hot takes coming your way. But first, we're going to have everyone introduce themselves and tell a little bit about like what they do or how they got here. But quick. So, how about you?
I'm Paco. I'm a part of the community of Cool Cats, and maybe you heard what's going on in Cool Cats recently. So I'm SNAX. I heard you talking about on the space recently from Captain Swingley. So maybe I can get some insights and tell you what's going on there because it's like really, really interesting times with their community. And yeah, I will pass it on to you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Taika. I'm VP of Product at World of Women. I've been with World of Women for over a year now. There's a lot going on with us as well. We're a very inclusive community and everything, but recently we had a few announcements about joining Taza's ecosystem.
Yep.
And a lot has changed as well for us in terms of community and everything, so happy to talk about that.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Dub from Shrapnel. We're a AAA extraction shooter on chain. We have an AVAX subnet. We're a worldwide game as well. I just got back from Brazil. We have a whole Portuguese version of our Discord and everything like there. So a lot of information on localization and everything has been our forefront and focus as we grow to the whole world and not just the US anymore.
And I'm Luca. I'm the CEO of Pudgy Penguins.
I'm SNAX, Dread Pizza Roberts at Pizza DAO, and we just threw our 4th global pizza party on Bitcoin Pizza Day in 230 cities with over 10,000 attendees.
Yay!
I'm Andre. I'm a founder and business manager of a design studio called Deep Work, and we operate basically like an open community where everybody just does what they are passionate about while being a profitable business.
All right, awesome.
I can actually add that I was part of Deep Work about 3.5 years ago, so yeah, we know each other.
So my first question is more about the history of community and where we are today. So if anyone is moved to answer this one, like when you first joined online communities, what was it like? And then really comparing it to what we have today, what do you see as the biggest changes? It's like a historical question.
I think I'll start. I mean, my first online community was in 1998. It was a chat room. And we were a lot of people, like hundreds of people, and we met IRL afterwards. Like every month we would meet IRL and so on. So it was funny for me because when I joined World of Women, my PM, he said like, and he's like 24, 25, he's like, yeah, no one ever met online before, you know, like, and now, like, because of NFTs, we can meet people through online and digital assets. I'm like, whoa. So a lot has changed. That I can tell for sure. Like, a lot of tools appeared, the culture changed, but also, like, when it was in its infancy, like, it was really about, like, as fast as possible to go offline and be IRL and, you know, drink beers with each other. Well, now, I mean, like, we are much more pseudonymous in Web3, and it feels sometimes awkward to be in the room and then like, oh, that's my face and that's how you look like.
Yeah.
And I think also on Web3 point, the other community, like from traditional digital communities to Web3 communities, it was my first experience with Deep Work. And it's really, really decentralized, pseudonymous and equal and everything. And I was like, oh, that's how it is in Web3. And then I tried other communities, and they're not always like that.
No, that's true. I know, SNAX, you have another group that was a non-crypto group that you've run for a very long time.
Yeah, I think I learned community management on Facebook. I run a 15,000 person Facebook group in South Philly called South Silly. Yeah, been running it for about 10 years. And I think it's informed a lot of how I've approached Pizza DAO.
Yeah. Anyone else from when you first started? All right. Next question is going to be, what do you think the important, impactful trends we're seeing now with crypto communities? And maybe how do you think those can affect people outside of crypto? Like, how are we doing community differently?
Yeah, I think it used to start very much Discord. It was like, okay, you got to be on Discord. This is the place. Now it's people realize that was kind of like a black box, and it was preventing groups from even growing in the first place. So now we're seeing a lot of projects like ourselves go outside of Discord and try to grow digital communities on all the platforms that are out there. If some of our community only want to interact on X or on Facebook, that's fine. We just need to make sure there is that house for them to have
Yeah,
it.
like meet them where they are. So maybe that's something all different types of communities can learn
Totally.
from. Interesting. Yeah, because like you said, Snacks, you run a Facebook group. Like, are people asking, or do you find there's an opportunity to grow more if you move to other platforms?
I think it's going to be hard for us to move off Facebook, but Pizza DAO started on Discord, and like you said, Discord becomes, once people turn off notifications on Discord, they never come back, which is a real problem for the platform, because you lose your audience and they never look again. And if your Discord is messy, which if you're building it and you don't know what to do, it will get messy, it can be a real problem. So now we look at our funnel as people come to our events, then we get them into their local Telegram groups, then we gradually migrate them into the Discord where our main community lives. And now, on top of that, we're building a whole spreadsheet infrastructure that just inventories all of our members and their skills. They all have profiles and stuff. So moving from Discord into like a community management system.
Okay. How about what, and this might be a tough one because you have a Cool Cat situation going on, but I'd say, what is the biggest challenge you're facing with your community right now? So maybe we could start with you.
Yeah, of course, like for me, it's like communication is very, very important, and recent events, it really sucks in the Cool Cats community.
So for the
right
people
now.
that don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
can you sum it up in like 1 or 2 sentences?
Yeah, so if you don't hear about this, the Cool Cats, or the most of the Cool Cats community team was laid off recently, and nobody talked about it, and still don't talk about it. Like, it's like 1 week ago, I think. And there was no official statement. There was like one little AMA, but not really an AMA because you can't ask questions. And we still, in the community, don't know what's going on. People are guessing. And this is like kind of very important to be transparent with your community, what's going on, communicate. And yeah, this is kind of the situation we are in right now. I think you said you're also in the community, and kind of maybe some of you guys heard about it as well. And that's why I think this is like
a lot of
key point.
speculation.
Yes, it's a lot of speculation. That's bad for the...
Which is
Yes.
really, what you're saying is that it's better to just get in front of it.
Yes, just talk about it. Like,
Right.
if there's a problem, just say
And it's
it.
probably not as bad as what people are
Yes.
guessing anyway.
Yes,
So,
and it's kind of crazy because people are thinking crazy and hyping each other up in the Discord. Like, before this happened, Discord was kind of empty, as SNAX told. Like, if the Discord is like muted, nobody shows up. And after this, like, the Discord was crowded and was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
Everybody comes back and was like, yeah.
Are you managing that?
No, I was just part of this, and it was
Okay.
like, yeah, I tried to speak to the people, okay, come down, let's wait for an announcement, but
It didn't come.
it didn't come still today. Like a little feedback from Clone, but yeah.
Yeah,
Not which
I've
was-
heard that. I
yeah.
mean, that's kind of a common, to be fair, I know that's what's happening now, but that is also a common complaint of NFT projects.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
they're often like, why aren't you tweeting more? Why aren't you saying more?
And in addition to not really commenting on it properly, they released like an allegorical story about the like really an odd choice. And I'm really curious. I think your like Pudgy's comms are so great.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm curious, how would you have approached this differently, maybe? Because I feel like they just really kind of an unforced error.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years is just treat people how we would like to be treated. I think we have a little bit of an edge of being disgruntled holders ourselves and acquiring a project, knowing that
Community takeover.
Yeah.
knowing what it feels like to be a disgruntled holder, I think gives us a really good perspective as to what people want. Ultimately, you have to understand that I think a majority of people are not high confrontation individuals, and confrontation is actually probably one of the things that I think most humans probably have a hard time dealing with. And so it's an unfortunate situation. I actually really love that team. People don't know this, but did you know I was supposed to be the CEO of Cool Cats?
No.
It's actually the first time probably I've ever said it publicly, but when I first acquired Pudgy, they tried to do a merger and acquisition deal between Pudgy and Cool Cats. The guys who are behind the scenes of Cool Cats that are running the show thought that I would be a good CEO for both companies. And then actually the founders didn't want me to be the main four at the time, didn't want me to happen. It didn't want that to be the case. And here we are today. It's a 2-year-old story that for the first time has probably seen the light of day, but I think it's maybe worth mentioning. And again, I think the whole situation going on with them, you have to, I have a deeper understanding as to that company, and I think it's not Klon's fault. I think you just have to understand there's a lot of moving pieces there that a lot of people don't really see behind the scenes of. But ultimately, I think the cat will have its time again, and this situation, I think, like all situations in life, and specifically in crypto, can be solved with hyper communication. I think we do a really good job jumping ahead of things, treating people the way that we want to be treated, and understanding that it's really not that big of a deal. If you mess up, you mess up. As long as you take accountability and you fall on your sword and you talk about it, you just got to communicate it. So, yeah.
Totally. One of the things I've looked at is like the way Frank DeGods deals with his criticism, which is to like retweet it. And so it's pretty cool, I think. Like that's kind of not saying I agree, but saying I see you. And I think that's super special. And something that is tough in crypto because there's this expectation, but like you said, sometimes there's a team. This is money after all. And so there is a team and they're making different decisions. And that, how do you balance that cultural difference between in the rest of the world, you don't really know what's going on within the company. Even if you hold stock, like it's very limited information. But in crypto and the fact that we're maybe all on Twitter, people expect communication all the time. Like, I see you shaking your head. Tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when I came on to Shrapnel, it was actually pretty rough for the community. The first thing I did was just made sure that I lived in Discord. By being the guy that was constantly there, did a weekly AMA where people could throw tomatoes at me, say what they needed to say, like turned the community on a dime, and I was really blown away. And it's such a difficult thing because in crypto, you can see the community member that is the whale, and he expects to have a different attention, a different, like if he says something, I better acknowledge it and answer that question compared to the rest of them. Otherwise, I'm going to hear about it for 2 weeks on Twitter or what have you. So it really is a difficult thing, but just having a body in there that's a human and that people can talk to and get information from is like the bare minimum and a great place to start.
Yeah, I think I can add to that as well. When I joined, I'm like, build in public. We have lack of trust with our community. And that was very clear on Discord, all the criticism. I'm like, okay, now we're going to build in public. I'm going to be on Discord all the time. I'm going to do it with people. And then I did a workshop that I learned from Andre. And I'm like, okay, that's a public workshop for all the holders. Come join. I'm like, maybe 20, 50 holders will show up. It was like 6 holders. And one of them lost so much money with us that he couldn't just stop talking about it. And it was not a workshop, it was just venting session. And at the same time, I'm like, this is what he needs now. And this is what the rest of the community needs now. They need therapy. Like, like they don't need like, how might we do it better? Like they want like just to talk about it. And I did a lot of things to do build in public. I shared all numbers, like, how many, dev hours, like how much time we spent on this, what did we do, And at some point, like, I just stopped doing it because, well, you have, 8 meetings a day and your calendar is full. Between meetings, you hardly can even go to the bathroom, and then it really makes a difference. If you don't show up on Discord, the trust is lost so quickly and it takes so long, to build it back. So you are there and it makes huge difference. Like, just recently I jumped in, our VP of marketing also jumped in. We did a massive difference. And then people who never speak, they like, oh, this is so great. Like, I didn't speak in this conversation, but like, I love seeing it. And then like, the mood is going up. But I know that like, I'm not there for 2-3 days. It's gonna go down again. And it's so easy to lose this transparency and trust and so hard to get it back. And it's really about being consistent in this communication. And really, like, when I joined, I was like, yeah, your communication sucks. I'm like, what do you mean? You know, we have that many followers. No, 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 no. But it's really about transparency of the communication. And yeah, as you say, like, it's about admitting mistakes. And we made a lot of them. The, NFT scene is not in the best shape. And it's not just only the market, it's also certain things that we did wrong. And we really need to own it and say to our holders. And it's like, we can't give money back. Well, you made a bad investment. It's on you. But what we did wrong, we need to say, yeah, that's our mistake. And from now on, we learned this, and that's what we're going to be doing now. But it's so hard, to be consistent in this communication. And it needs to be like a year ago, I'm wrapping up.
Yeah.
When I joined, I put it as an OKR. We work as a corporation almost, We have OKRs, quarterly goals, and that was a OKR, regain trust with the community. And there were key results, how can we do it? And we did some work, but we didn't succeed fully to the extent where it was necessary.
Yeah, that's really a lot to think about in terms of NFT projects and how a lot of people did lose a lot of money, and now you're building a community out of the ashes, and that's a whole different type of scenario from the type of community that kind of grows over time. But Andre, question for you is what can projects do to give their community some responsibility or build some kind of mutual benefit situation in a time where the money part and speculation part has kind of fallen out?
Yeah, that's a good question. Also, kind of to piggyback on the question before, what has changed in communities? 7 years ago, most people came into crypto and participated in communities for the money, which makes sense because a lot of money flooded in and it was pretty easy to access. And what I personally noticed now for the last maybe year or so is that people actually get interested in doing stuff and how do we create value? How do we make an impact? If you look at the grants ecosystem, everybody's how do we measure impact? Because people want to do stuff, but we're still flooding the money out. And I think the best things, and it goes the same for NFTs. NFTs had this hype as this JPEG thing that people could speculate on. But now we're going to a place where NFTs, well, what can they actually be used for? And obviously this is not technologically the most perfect solution, but to answer your question, I think making people feel seen and heard can be done also with that technology. So NFTs can be an attestation for a certain type of work. Of course, you have to define what work that is. So if you have a community, you want to figure out, well, what are we actually doing here? And that's going to probably lead to some kind of restructuring. A lot of times people just do stuff or think they do stuff, but they don't actually do it. So I think one of the easiest ways to actually give people recognition is to, give them recognition. And the best way it works in especially DAOs is by doing kind of peer attestations. So I've seen you do something, here's a badge, take it. We know that with challenge coins. I don't know if you're familiar with those. It's a real thing, a real coin that companies have been giving to their employees. And I think that's something that's really, really valuable, and it can actually make people stick together more because they feel they're seen and their contribution is also seen.
So I was saying we were building a database of our members, and I announced on Twitter the primary key of the database is an integer, and I said, here are the numbers that have been claimed so far. Let me know if you want a number. And I was shocked. People came out of the woodwork to request a random number that meant something to them. Even people who really were not contributing to Pizza DAO at all. But now maybe they will. So that was, I was totally surprised.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yes, Luca.
And I also think there probably needs to be a little bit of a reframing around NFTs. Obviously, a majority of the excitement happened around in 2020 and 2021. But I think you need to look at them for ultimately what they are, which I think are culture and community vehicles. I think at its core, what an NFT does better than anything else is align people of certain values and certain interests to become friends and to work together or to build some sort of camaraderie in life around finding some sort of financial success, which whether we like it or not, the elephant in the room is 95% of people are in crypto because of that. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And the really interesting thing about NFTs is, what do we do really at Pudgy Penguins above all else is we really just spend time, a lot of time and a lot of energy and resources getting people together to kind of cross-pollinate the information that is that they have, whether it's some sort of edge in the market or some sort of relationship or connection. I think like really our job is to be custodians of this culture that ultimately helps people improve their lives, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, financially. And this is the way that these things become worth, hopefully one day, millions of dollars, if that's a dream of yours, is to create some sort of asymmetric upside that's not predicated on one thing. And then, it's also important to note, like in the nature of, addressing things, like when there's issues, it's important to be proactive, not reactive. I think one of the best things that we did starting 2.5 years ago is we looked at the landscape and we said, what is the common FUD amongst all the NFT projects? And what are people kind of, what is the common consensus as to why people are not enjoying this experience? And rather than waiting for those same things to come into our community, we were proactive in addressing them. So a lot of people wanted transparency in building in public. So we literally made a YouTube series called Building in Public, so you can see exactly what I'm doing every couple of weeks. Every 2 weeks we have an inner igloo. So if there's discourse, rather than that, energy festering internally and you getting upset, every 2 weeks, you can talk to me specifically, and we can address those problems and nip it in the bud. These are two of many examples that I think kind of address these current problems. But I think it's important to note that everybody in here, like this idea of utility, I think is a farce. Like don't get obsessed with that notion. The community and the culture is the utility. And if you don't see value in that, then this might not necessarily be the space for you. I would argue it's the most important utility. I would argue it's more important than some sort of passive yield or passive income, because if you understand how to monetize and leverage relationships, it is incomparable to any other asset, I think, in crypto. And if you're looking for something different, you're looking for something different. There's plenty of vehicles for that. But we got sold metaverses and dreams of passive yielding assets, and that was a good dream, a dream that got me involved, and I'm sure many others. But I think we now need to look at the space in a different light. These are culture and community vehicles. And you're leveraging these vehicles to better your life in a couple different facets, depending on which one of those prongs or spectrums makes sense for you. But I think that's the better reworking of it. There's no better identification mechanism than a digital identity or some sort of thing that sits in your wallet that shows that you're a part of something. And you've got to learn how to leverage that and use that to your advantage. And ultimately, that's the best value that you'll get from these awesome JPEGs.
There's so much there. That was awesome. There's just so much to chew on there, and I love it. And one of the things you said is about what this really is an opportunity to have a network. And how one of the reasons I'm in crypto is because it is a great equalizer in a way we haven't seen in my lifetime so far. And it's really coming to fruition of what the internet really was meant to be, which is like a way for us to all work together and become like a global network. And that's something special about NFT projects that people don't really talk about, which is you were able to mint early if you had a feeling about it. And then, so there are people there that have paid very little, and there are people there that have paid a lot. I think of CryptoPunks as an example. And it gives opportunity to people to do things and to make connections and have more opportunity because of who they're meeting. And that is something that is very difficult to break down in the real world, because we're so limited by where we live or what we look like or who our parents are or what our education is. And NFTs allowed that. Yeah. All right, let's see how much time we have left. I actually don't No.
17.
Okay. That's how
A
many
lot.
minutes we have left? That's amazing. We're doing great.
I think I can heat up this conversation.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because like it is about culture and community. I fully agree, and that was one of the statements, right? Like we are nothing without our community. Like that is very clear to us. But then, how NFTs are different than meme coins? Meme coins are culture. Meme coins have their community. You know, like we
Yeah.
had this conversation, and the only way, like, they being traded on different things, right? Like, one is marketplaces, NFT marketplaces, and then meme coins are traded, you know, like on decentralized and centralized, maybe even exchanges. So they even have advantage in accessibility, like, and they still represent culture, and they do have some community. So how NFTs are different?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
No, that's a question to you.
I think about this a lot. This is an interesting one. So it's actually funny. I'll give you guys a little bit of an anecdote. We have 16 minutes, so I hope you don't mind. This is a good one, though. I think I'll give you guys a little bit of perspective. But a really big player in crypto reached out to me, and he said, Luca, you know, how many more characters in crypto do you think are more popular than the Pudgy Penguin? And he was like, okay, you got Doge, you got Pepe, and he's like, what other ones? And you know, you could argue, the argument is, you know, amongst the top characters in crypto, which ones are the most popular? I would argue that the Pudgy Penguin is one of the 3 most popular characters in crypto. If you want to take the pessimistic take, you'd put it in the top 5, right? But there isn't 5 more crypto native characters that are more popular than the Penguin. I would hope everyone in this room would agree with that. And he did the comparison. He said, you know, Doge is worth $15 billion, and Pepe is worth $6 billion, and Pudgy Penguins are worth $200 million. He's like, what's the discrepancy? And I said, well, it's probably the mechanism in which you know, they're all liquid tokens, and ours is an NFT, and you know, that is the discrepancy. Is one is significantly more accessible, and there's another tweet that he also referenced. I won't mention who it's from, but he basically said that you know, NFTs are too illiquid for whales and priced out for retail, and at a Pudgy Penguin, you know, at a floor price of about $30,000, probably fits into that category in a pretty meaningful spot, right? The average person can't buy one, and the average guy with a ton of size doesn't want to buy 100 penguins because it's hard to get in and out, and that's fair. And so he said, like, well, you know, why don't you tokenize this? Why don't you make this, you know, something more accessible? Because clearly there's a gap, there's an arbitrage opportunity within the discrepancy. And so to the downside, that's how NFTs and meme coins are different, is one is significantly more liquid than the other. But in the same respect, right, there's something about the digital identity layer and the uniqueness that I also think is incredibly powerful. And to take the take for NFTs and against meme coins is, I think, today NFTs have a significantly greater value proposition than just a meme coin. What I mean by that is there's a digital identity layer, which I think is the most important layer. The idea that I can see somebody, give you guys a subconscious anecdote that I think is important. I took an investor. We raised a round recently. I won't mention that because you guys will see the information soon. But one of the guys who reached out to me who raised the round, he was negotiating with me, and he wore a Pudgy Penguin PFP. And I wasn't going to take his check. But I ended up taking his check because he had a Pudgy Penguin PFP.
Yeah.
And there was another guy, the company called Doppel. I was going to work with another company called Chain Patrol, but I went with Doppel. Why? Because the guy head of business development wore a Pudgy Penguin PFP. Another thing, back before I owned Pudgy Penguins, I had a Board 8 PFP, and when people used to message me with a Board 8 PFP, I automatically responded. And if they didn't have a Board 8 PFP or a CryptoPunk or a Penguin, I didn't respond to them at all. I said, because I subconsciously thought that these people, you know, because of these expensive JPEGs, that these guys were early, that they were smart, whatever my subconscious was telling me, I was inclined to respond to those 3 profile pictures versus the latter. Whether that was right or wrong doesn't really matter. I'm just giving you guys an anecdotal experience. With a meme coin, I don't know who has a $20 million meme coin position and if they're early and if they have the alpha. But with a PFP, I can instantly identify that. I can instantly identify, you know, when I see somebody, you know, with one of those PFPs, call it a CryptoPunk, I'm thinking, oh, this guy is early. This guy maybe has a little bit of taste. This guy is, you know, probably, you know, been around in crypto for a while, and somebody who's been around for crypto for some while probably has some alpha. right? And the subconscious messaging and this really quick delineation on this mobile device, which we spend all of our time on, gives me a really competitive edge to kind of see somebody, who they are, where in the financial spectrum they may lie, by simply just looking at what profile picture they wear or yield. You can also kind of tell with their personality. I mean, you can probably assume what a pudgy, a real evil, excuse my language, but an asshole type of guy is not really wearing a pudgy penguin. I don't think a pudgy penguin is really going to resonate with a guy who's, walks around angry all day. And then maybe somebody who's a little bit more contrarian. My lady might be a good identification for that. If I see somebody with a my lady PFP, I'm like, yeah, you're going against the grain. You maybe have a contrarian take, which is also interesting depending on my interests. And a lot of these PFPs have different subsegments of people in which you can easily see by them wearing that profile picture, I can then build a relationship with them. And that edge, as well as the edge of self-proliferation, which I think this whole thing in crypto and tokens comes down to supply and demand. And demand is driven by awareness and FOMO, and nothing does that better than profile pictures. And so that's what I would think the delineation between NFTs. I think meme coins have significantly more liquidity, and so you are seeing that in a very meaningful way right now, where people are simply just making more money in meme coins, at least for the ones that succeed. I think the fragmentation in meme coins is worse than people, I think, believe, meaning, one day a meme coin's hot, the next day it's at zero, and it stays at zero for a long time. That's not sustainable. And on the other side of the spectrum, I think NFTs bring a level of camaraderie, give a level of visual representation, a level of friendship that is more easily accessible and I forget the word, but maybe call it achievable than necessarily a meme coin. Now, they both have really strong communities. Every token in crypto has strong communities. But this self-proliferating identity and the things that come with having that real estate that is your profile picture is the most powerful form of marketing that I think we've seen in crypto, and I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon.
Because if relationships are, maybe the most important thing that we have here.
They are.
Right? People. People are what make Earth fun. So, animals are cool too, but I'm a people guy mostly. So if relationships are really what we're building here, then you want to give, your community all the opportunities to meet each other within your ecosystem, and an NFT gives an extra edge because you have lore. With a meme coin, you have a balance. Maybe you have some sort of a meme that you push within that ecosystem, but with an NFT, you get to build personal lore. And that's huge because lore is almost as good as, people make lore, and what is the meaning of life? Guess what? You get to make it. So NFTs give you that canvas. They give you, I collect CryptoPunks that have a bandana and an eye patch, and I call them pirate punks, and I do that because I believe in the copyleft movement, in the sharing of ideas and information. And now I can do this, which I'm about to do, and you can't do this with a meme coin.
What's really, really interesting right now is that all of us, I think, are, actually, I don't know, but most of us here are not, wait. Oh, wait.
The patch was ready.
He's prepared.
You can do this with mod a little bit.
For sure. I do like that.
So try that with me.
What I was saying is that right now we're seeing that very strongly in the Bitcoin ordinals side of this, which is they're all about their PFPs and they're all about community. And it's really, really kind of interesting because I don't think we were a fad, when it was more popular. I don't think that's a fad. I think we're coming back to that. And right now, everyone's down on at least the ETH side of NFTs. But you see from Bitcoin ordinals that that's still what people want. So once we kind of get over this negative time at the moment, which everyone's working so hard for, like World of Women and Cool Cats and Pudgies, I think people will come back to it. And you can have additional lives. That's another thing. It's like if you have different PFPs, you can use them in different ways, and it really does extend your life.
Yeah, if you
online.
want to be a pirate on Tuesday and something else
A
on Wednesday,
mermaid.
go for it, right?
That's right.
The point I wanted to make is I think we don't know what it's going to look like next year. And I think, like with 404 and hearing what you guys are saying about meme tokens, there is a place where however many meme tokens you have, you get a different NFT that represents
Yes.
how much of those meme tokens you have. So who knows, maybe one day there is a place where there are still Pudgy penguins and there is the meme token as well.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
That's what I think we'll see in the next year coming forward.
I didn't say that, but yeah, I was thinking that as well. There is a way, because the opportunity to use your own token, like if there was a Pudgy token, to be able to use it for recognition or tipping or grants, or like being able to use it within the community, and then it makes it easier to onboard new people. It's almost like I think of as like what the Lil Pudgies were initially. Like you're allowing people because I have a Lil Pudgy, and it makes me really happy. And it's just allowing people to join the community at a lower price point. And that's one question we didn't get to talk about, but I want to bring up, which is how do you encourage diversity and inclusivity within your communities? Yeah, or if it's not important to you, tell me that too.
I think somebody brought this up to me the other day, and they were like, I've been pretty public about this, but I want to create the number one NFT to ever exist, and obviously I think some of that is predicated around how much it's worth. And they were like, well, if it's worth $1 million one day, like, isn't that like very exclusive and not inclusive? And I was like, yeah, that's why we built a brand that everyone can enjoy, right? Like, you can follow us on Instagram, you can buy our toys at Walmart and Target. Like, you don't need to necessarily, and I think this is ultimately like comes down to, I think the strategy for a lot of NFT brands today, which is, a digital profile picture that's worth an excess sum of money at some point is a status symbol. What that status represents can either be, it can be a ton of different things, but I think it's really important to grow that base of that community as far and wide as possible, so that, status is only yielded depending on how many people know that thing is a status symbol or not. Meaning, if 100,000 people know what a Pudgy penguin is, that status only goes so far. If 10 million people know what a Pudgy penguin is, the NFT status goes a lot further. And if 100 million people know what a Pudgy penguin is, that status is, as premier as it comes, and is akin to what you're seeing with like first edition Pokemon cards and things like that. I think the way to be inclusive is to not think about it necessarily from an NFT perspective, because I think, again, NFTs, the beauty of their mechanism is supply and demand and scarcity. And I think the idea of issuing new NFTs is a really tough road to go down. But the idea that you can create a brand that everybody can love and everybody can enjoy, I think is something that is really, really important. And that's how you bring people together, right? A 60-year-old can, maybe collect a Pudgy Penguin NFT. A 5-year-old can be playing with a Pudgy Penguin toy. A 25-year-old can be sharing the Pudgy Penguin gifts and Instagram post, right? It's a community for everyone. But ultimately, the early believers and the first edition collectors collect the NFTs, and I think that's probably, in my opinion, the best way, without diluting the core ecosystem, which is, I think, something you want to steer away from, is probably the best way to keep your community as inclusive as possible.
Yeah. And Andre, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to make sense because I've never openly talked about it, but I can share with you kind of my thinking about inclusivity, because I had the pleasure to work with a lot of really diverse people, and I'm really grateful to meet so many extremely different people. And I always had the luck to be in companies or in organizations where inclusivity was not really an issue. And the way I make sense of that is that there's kind of stuff that really matters to the community. So things like values, a mission, maybe your responsibilities or what you're good at. And then there's a lot of stuff that doesn't matter to the organization and the community. And it's what are you wearing? What's your gender? What do you do in all the other time? And the way I found that work environments can attract people of a lot of diverse backgrounds and different interests is by providing as much space as possible for all the other things, as opposed to the stuff that matters. if I want my community to work well, I want like great facilitators. Like this is what a great facilitator is. If you can follow that recipe, if you can follow that workflow, awesome. How you do that, as long as that doesn't kind of like ruin the client relationships and as long as that doesn't have a negative impact on the brand, is all up to you. Are you a funny person? Are you a serious person? Are you like male, female, whatever? That's all up to you. What are your hobbies like? And so I think that kind of distinction, being very, very clear about what really matters to the community, what's the flag, what's the NFT, what's the image, what do we identify with value-wise, like we should be on board with that as a community. But all the rest is like as much space as possible that creates this diversity or attracts this diversity, because then people come in and are like, I like tennis, or like I like surfing, and it's like, oh, awesome, cool. Like let's talk about that in our off time, and then they can influence, they can bring their expertise and their experience from all the other places in their universes into your community too, and everything kind of flourishes. I hope that makes sense. I don't think I've like been trying to be clear about it before.
I mean, there's something to be said about also like putting rules on people that I think is like not the way to do it. Max, would like to ask you, because I remember actually messaging somebody from Cool Cat saying I disagreed with that. There was like a thing where they like wouldn't even let you like say words. What was your take on that?
Sorry, which words?
Like just like for example, like Pudgy's family friendly, but if you can go in the Discord and you can drop an F-bomb and I'm not going to kick you out, right? Like what's your take on that? Like, did you think that was harmful? Do you think that was positive? Just curious. I mean,
I think if it's against people, it shouldn't be said because it's like personal. But if it's like not harming anyone, it's
I agree with that. I could agree with that.
It's okay. I think it's like, I mean, we are in the Web3 space and we have lots of internet trolls and lots of shit talking. I would say on Twitter. If you go on Twitter, like 50% of the tweets are like shit posting, which is funny. But yeah, if it's against someone like personally, that's not cool.
Yeah, I had to set some of those rules actually because obviously being a shooter game, people like to talk smack, talk crap, and there's one guy that was like hated on every single player no matter what, and asked for their details and everything, and I had to put him on a suspension, you know, because every time someone came in new to the Discord, the first thing they saw was this guy hating on some random person for gaming or whatever. The other point I wanted to bring up was that for us, it's really important that specifically the Discord kind of it continues to evolve and it's a place where we're not forcing people to act a certain way all the time. And like specifically around localization, like I didn't just create chat channels for all the other languages. I actually created copies of our Discord in Portuguese and in Spanish and other localized languages so that people from those regions can come and interact in the way they want to interact and not get forced to speak English, for example.
We ran out of time, but I will add, because our mission is like build inclusive future, and we even joke like inclusive community, exclusive opportunities, and all this kind of stuff. But actually, what made me join is like when I was looking at Discord, when I was being in this kind of hiring process, like people like would join Discord and like, you know, random people are like, women suck, you know, and all this kind of stuff. Oh, girls, all of your girls here, like how about no, you know? And I was really surprised how actually community, not just mods, but actually our community were not just like, you know, banning them, but like talking to them. I was like, wow, that's a really nice community. Like actual people being like nice and polite and talking to these people and trying to talk them out of this behavior, which I was really surprised. I haven't seen it in many other Discords. I was like, wow, actually maybe it's, you know, makes sense to join them.
Yeah, that's really special, really. And I don't know if it's, the group is pretty diverse in terms of men and women, but I love that that kind of feminine energy is being used in this way to like embrace the person who's behaving poorly and have a more like who hurt you approach. Yeah. Did you have something on this?
No, I think we have to wrap up because we are like out of time.
Oh no, we're out of time. Gosh, that was a lot of fun. Thank you all so much. That was really fun.